Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Belgian Football Podcast. My name's Ben Jackson. I'll be your host of this episode once again. And as always, I'm joined by Scott and Joris. Scott and Joris, how are you guys doing this evening?
What's happening, Belgian football lovers? Other than another big week of domestic and European action, of course.
Happy days, happy days.
Yeah, definitely is happy days for one person in this podcast at least. Maybe two, in fact, given the results over this weekend. Let's get straight into it then. On Friday, we had Club Brugge against Zulte Waregem. That one finished 1 goal apiece. Lots to talk about from that one. Genk opened up Saturday at home to Eupen. They won that one 4-2. Charleroi lost at home to Oostende. That one finished 3-1 to the boys from the coast. Kortrijk and Sint-Truiden played out a 0-0. Mechelen got off to winning ways at home. They beat Union Saint-Gilloise 3-0. Standard got a win as well under Ronnie Dyler. They beat Cercle Bruges 2-0 thanks to 2 penalties. We'll definitely be talking about those ones. Genk came back from behind to beat newly promoted Westerlo 2-1. Anderlecht took Salang to the cleaners in the first half, laid off a little bit in the second half, and that one finished 3-1 to the hosts. And then the big one of the weekend, the surprise top two, I guess one of them is definitely a surprise. Antwerp against Leuven. Absolutely cracking game, this one. This one finished 4-2 to Antwerp, and there's so much to talk about coming out of this one. Let's start in Bruges. Bruges obviously coming off the back of that surprise loss to Eupen the week before. Looking for a response. Obviously, Stanley Osoki has gone, so Otasawi came in at centre-back. Dennis Odoi returned. He came into the central area as well in place of Balanta. Bornmeyer also came in. He replaced Edouard Sobel. Noah Lang, before the game, kind of reports emerged that he'd been asked to be put on the bench and not start. So Kamal Soa started instead. Lang was obviously still in the squad and did in fact come on. However, it was the away side, Zulte Waregem, who really took it to Club Brugge, playing on the counter-attack as you'd kind of expect them to do away from home. Lots of chances. Simon Mignolet again. I don't know, guys, we probably should talk about this, but I think he's in the best form I've seen Simon Mignolet in for a couple of seasons now. He made some cracking saves to deny Jean-Luc Dompe a couple of times as well. He probably should have scored them, but Mignolet was fantastic there. Went in at half-time 0-0. Sammy Bossett had also made some really good saves in the first half. Kasper Nielsen had a good chance. He hit the side netting, but yet 0-0 at half-time. Club Brugge fans not particularly happy with what they'd seen from their side. However, they did break the deadlock early in the second half. And this was a beautifully worked goal that finished with an André Skov Olsen finish. Here's Meyer at the left-hand side. There's Jukla, on the left-hand side, playing it in. Van Aken finds Soa. Soa then plays it across to an on-rushing André Skov Olsen. First time shot from him, Sammy Bossett makes a really good save. However, on the rebound, Olsen puts it in. And now you're thinking, right, Club Brugge at home, 1-0 up, poor first half, second half. They should now kind of do what they've done historically to Zulte Waregem, which is take them apart. However, this Zulte Waregem is a different team this year under Mbaye from what we've seen so far. And they did try and come back into the game, and they did just that. Ali Fadera with a fantastic cross. And Drambayev, the new signed left back at the back post, beats his man to the ball and sticks it in. And it finished 1-1. Some more saves from Bossett and Mignolet in this one, but 1-all it finished at the end of the game. 23 shots for Club Brugge, only 7 on target. Zulte only managed 7 shots all game, but 4 of those on target. And I did see a meme from a Zulte Waregem fan after the game, and it was a Gordon Ramsay one that said, "Finally, some fucking good football." Apologies for the language there, but I just thought, it's nice. It must be quite nice to see over the dross they saw last season. So that definitely made me laugh. I think that was in reply to something from What a Load of Waffle put, but yeah, that was fantastic. Scott, you said before we started recording, you wanted to talk about Hufkins and the team kind of selection. So I'm going to hand this straight over to you to kind of unleash you early on in the podcast, because I feel there's a little bit of pent-up anger on your part from kind of how he set his side up in this one.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Carl for a minute, shall we? Because last week, Hufkins, obviously after the Eupen defeat, came out and said that he felt, okay, it was one of those games where not enough of our players performed at the level they can perform, which was interesting to put that on the players. And then following that, Hans Van Aken said kind of quite quickly something along the lines of, and I might be paraphrasing here slightly, but the general gist of it was we went into that game without much of a plan. or a kind of tactical overview, which I thought was very, very interesting. Ofkins then coming out and saying, well, that to me is not really criticism of me, and not much more was said about it other than that. But really, really interesting comments regardless. This weekend, obviously, Club drop more points at home in a game in which I thought they were unconvincing generally. You know what I mean? They were a bit up and down in the game, lifted it a bit at the start of the second half, got their noses in front. Wasn't enough for them. Zalta should have won the game. But coming back to Oofkins a second, I think there's another thing as well that I thought was kind of quite telling, and it comes back to the Noah Lang situation that you were talking about, Ben. Lang says, because there's a transfer in the offing, there's a lot of activity going on, please put me in the bench. I'd rather not start the game. Now, most coaches would rightly in that situation go, okay, I tell you what, you're not going on the bench either. Your head's clearly not in the place that, you know, we wanted to be in. So you're out of the match squad. Now, I thought the fact that he put him on the bench and was a bit woolly about that was a bit odd, because he came on later on when they were chasing the game to try and get the winner and didn't contribute very much. But having said that, Noah Lang has kind of dialed out quite a number of weeks ago anyway, I think. But it was just very interesting that instead of going, okay, you know, psychologically, I don't think your preparation's right here, we're going to leave you out, he chose to kind of stick with it. And then on full time, he heads straight down the touchline, Oofkins, without shaking Mbaile's hand, and looked mightily pissed off, actually. Well, and I can understand why. I mean, there was some comments that came out afterwards where he was critical of his players again for not implementing instructions. And he does seem to be the sort of coach, I think, who, a bit like John van den Brom when he was at Genk, places an awful lot of trust on the players on the pitch to just kind of go and get the job done, which is always a bit risky. There's a kind of hands-off element there that I think is, just a wee bit questionable. And I think the pressure's on now because they have had a poor start. It's very early. There's been a lot of disruption and unsettled vibes in the camp, obviously with players leaving and things like that, which is added to this. So there's absolutely no need for them to panic yet, but there's just been some really interesting signs over the last 10 days or so that some of Karl Ofkin's judgment calls, I think, have been pretty questionable.
No, definitely interesting. I think on the Noah Lang front, I kind of was in the same boat. I was like, well, if he doesn't want to start, you kind of think, well, don't put him on the bench. If that's his, like, if he's like, I don't feel mentally, like, I don't want to start, then you'd be like, okay, well, then you're not going to play at all. We'll just stick another player on there, I don't know, like a Cici Sandro or someone like that. Also found it quite interesting, and you also like to hear kind of your opinion on this one as well, that it was Kamil Soa that got the nod over Carl Larin. Larin obviously brought in as a striker, but you go with someone like Soa, who's not really a striker. He's kind of like a winger, more like attacking midfielder, not really a striker, similar to Lang, I guess, because we wouldn't say Lang's a striker. Yeah, no, I think also while we're on this, we don't want to dampen on what Zulte Waregem did, because they were really good in this game. Like, they played really well, and this is like, if you're comparing this year to last year, these are the sort of games they would get battered in, like a couple, like under Drury, under other coaches as well. So fair play to them for sticking in this one and really coming back into it. And arguably could have won it if Dompe took some of those earlier chances.
It was the first goal for Zulte Waregem against Club Brugge in 7 games now as well. And the lowest score, 2-0. In the last 6 games, it was at least 3-0 to Club Brugge. So definitely good that they managed to break that series now. And well, indeed, with good play. Brilliant team goal from Club Brugge as well. The choice for Soa, that choice, I guess, did actually work out quite well. Looks like he was one of the best players on the pitch, from what I heard from Club Brugge fans. They were pleasantly surprised with that. It also is indeed not the best of signs for Larin already in the opening stages of the season, that he is not featuring much, and that Soa picked over him so soon. Another interesting one was Otasoe going in the back, made a few mistakes, gave away some chances to Zulte Waregem. Looks like he will be staying, while Jack Hendry is actually more sidetracked by Hoefkes, who said now everyone got a chance to show themselves, which is true. They made a lot of changes in these past 2 weeks. So I guess the board should not necessarily panic yet, but I think they should also get that message through to their coach as well, in a way, to the manager, because there has been a lot of changes in the mostly at the back. None of them have seemed to have worked. That was a weird one, I guess. Like both Otasowi playing, and then after he had quite a bad performance, okay, he's protecting him, so in that sense, just about the game, fair enough. But also then, to discard most likely, that's at least what's in the papers today, another player in favor of him. It's not very encouraging for what's going on at the club at the moment, I guess, in general, in the playing squad. At the club, I don't know, but in the squad, and with the manager, it's difficult to get a grasp on it at the moment.
Yeah, I think difficult to get a grasp on it is definitely kind of sums up that situation. Yeah, Otasowi, like I think I said last week, he looked reasonably all right in the kind of Super Cup game, but this one, yeah, he was kind of all over the place, giving the ball away a couple of times to Federa and Dompe. And I don't know, it was kind of the weekend where a lot of players playing kind of on the left-hand side of defence had a bit of a nightmare. Kind of wingers were all over them this weekend. There were a couple of performances, especially in the Sunday night game that we'll get to. It's making it interesting, I guess. It's not going to be a runaway title for Club Brugge. We never thought it would be, but certain signs there that there are some issues that do need to be sorted out, and they've still got time, but it's whether they're going to do it in that time. And yeah, like you said, like if Jack Hendry's completely sidelined, then they're going to have to find another centre back if he's clearly not the one rated, because at the moment that's definitely an issue and not one we'd have expected from a side like Club Brugge. You expect them to be a bit better defensively, but yeah, Simon Mignolet has worked very hard this opening kind of few games of the season. Let's move on to Genk against Eupen, your team, Joris, and goals. Absolute goal fest in this one. Got off kind of within the first 10 minutes. Joseph Pantzler scored twice, 3rd minute and the 8th minute. And thankfully, Eupen's Mel Paviak then equalised in the 32nd. But just 5 minutes later, Patrick Ozowski made it 3-1 to Genk. And it was going so badly for Eupen and poor Nuruddin that he was subbed off at half-time, I believe it was, and Lennart Mirza came in instead. He only conceded one, and that was in the 92nd minute to Mike Tresor, which came after Reagan Charles Cook had got his first goal for Eupen in the 59th. Steph Peters was then sent off in the 83rd minute to kind of kill off any real chance Eupen had of getting back into this down to 10 men. And like I said, Mike Tresor kind of wrapped it up in the 92nd minute. Worth noting, Paul Onuachi's back. He was on the bench, obviously not fully fit yet, but with the kind of other news that Cyril Dessers is moving to Italy with Cremonese, he's definitely going to be a welcome return. Joris, watching this one, were you impressed? Were you terrified? Were you like, kind of, is this kind of the Walter Franken experience, I guess, isn't it? Where defending's thrown out the window and you're just going to see goal fest most weeks.
Yes, definitely. It was a bit of a mixed bag, but in a good way. At least there's some excitement going around the team, and that's always better than apathy. So I guess that's an improvement for sure. But yeah, they should have killed this game off way earlier. The amount of chances they had, it's really ridiculous. As ridiculous as they got 14 shots on target in this game, which is at least twice as much as any other team this weekend. So yeah, and still they were not the only team scoring 4 goals this weekend, so they should have converted a bit more, in my opinion, as well. Nuruddin had a stinker as well. He did get replaced for technical reasons at the break. So yeah, he really was not on top of his form, and that's already actually the case the whole season. So I fear for him that he might have lost his place here for some time to Moser, who did pick up in the second half, picked up the glove and really did a good job in keeping Genk out. Maybe just to highlight that a bit more, like, so, okay, a few times Nuruddin came away with it, but he was also appearing in areas of the field where he did not really need it to be. And there's the one particular phrase where he lost the ball close to the midfield with his whole defense still behind him, though, so or already back behind him. So it was very unnecessary to be on the sideline as well, and then to lose the ball. Luckily for him, Disser was not composed enough, and well, the Genk attack didn't manage to get a decent shot on target out of it. But yeah, that kind of summed up his game. Genk, yeah, indeed, inheriting these issues of Mechelen as defending is a bit. I'd like to see that improved. Well, I'll take it as Wouter Franke did himself as well. There is a lot of things to improve. He also said that some of the players didn't really adapt well to the Eupen's tactical change from a back 3 to the back 4. After that happens, that they didn't react or didn't play in the way they should have, all in good humor. But that there's still a lot to watch on the tactical analysis and to learn. But that's I guess that's a good thing. Here, actually, you could see what you mentioned in the previous game: a few good crosses from Eupen that led to their both their goals, and the almost shock equalizer as well from Van Genechte against his whole team in the 89th minute. The one chance Eupen really had for the 3-3, which would be very much against the run of play.
Well, it's nice to know, isn't it, that kamikaze football is still alive and well, albeit it's a different team that's playing it under Wouter Franken now. This was I thought this was quite a good game. I quite enjoyed this one, guys. It was really rather open, not always for the reasons that I think coaches would have appreciated watching on the touchline. Genk could have scored 8 or 9, in all honesty, actually. Equally, Eupen probably could have had more than the 2 that they got. Such was the passiveness of both defences at times. Eupen looking a little bit ropey at the moment. I thought they're quite slack in a lot of this game. They seem to set off Genk quite a lot, particularly at the start, who tend to still start games pretty strongly, as they have done for a long time now. But a lot of things I think for Bernd Storck to mull over going into the next few weeks. It certainly wasn't a particularly happy return to the Segeka for him.
No, definitely not. Although it was a happy-ish, I guess he probably would say he wasn't that happy with the result in the end. For Reagan Charles Cook, I've been quite impressed with what I've seen from the Grenadian winger. He's one of those players that I think he was born in Lewisham, and Lewisham just seems to produce a ridiculous amount of footballers. It is just crazy the amount of good players that come out there, and he's clearly another one. So it's good to see him get off the mark. That's a golden assist for him. And he was I think we said in the preview, we were quite impressed that they managed to get him in. So, I mean, for Eupen, it was after the result of last week, how are you going to really top it? And then, yeah, like you said, Scott, kamikaze football is what we love from Wouter Franken's side. So, yeah, long may it continue. The goals can keep flowing. Let's go over to Charleroi then for one of the games that kicked off at the same time as St. Truiden Kortrijk. Funnily enough, we're not going to talk about that one first because there's probably not much to say about it. But this one definitely had some interest in it. Charleroi thought they had taken the lead in the first half when Joris Kayembe scored at the back post. However, this one was ruled out for offside, and then just a few minutes later, it was Oostende that took the lead. Really, really nice play, kind of inside before it fell to, I think it was Atanga was holding it up. Again, he'd had a really good game last week. This week, he was the assist provider, sending it across to Robbie De Haas, who first time finished. I thought he was going to take a touch, but he didn't. He just absolutely lashed it first time past Coffey. Really, really nice finish from him to put Oostende 1-0 up. However, into the second half, Charleroi equalised. This time it was Joris Kayembe, but he was the provider. He squared it for Kenan Kuba to get his, I believe, first goal of the season in the 55th minute. Just one of 3 shots that Charleroi managed on target out of the 16 that they took in this game. Once again, Huber was fantastic in goal, made some really, really good saves to deny Charleroi the other 2 times, I guess. Oostende then took the lead. This time it was Nick Batsner, the assist provider last week, then got the goal in this one in the 65th minute. Really awful defending from Charleroi, just kind of unlike them. Just kind of dithering around at the back, not really knowing what to do with it. Batsner nixed it, fires it into, I think it was Atanga again, I believe. He then played it round the corner to Batsner running on. Didn't look like he had enough pace to beat the defenders, but he just about got a shot away in time. Really nice finish into the bottom corner. Yeah, Charleroi kept pushing, trying to get the equaliser. They couldn't manage it. And in the 96th minute, I think it was Sakamoto, absolutely like leathered the ball out from the back, just launched it up the pitch. Theo Ndika had come on. He's racing onto it. Matargue's in the middle screaming for him to pass it. He doesn't bother. Joris Kembe's by this point has given up chasing him to try and get it back. This is literally like a 2-on-1. He should have probably passed it to Matargue, but he decided to unleash a shot into the far corner. Oostende win 3-1. Players looked absolutely delighted. Say it quietly, guys, but I felt like just watching them and watching the way they were celebrating and stuff, it felt a little bit more like the Blessing times when there was that really good togetherness in the squad. Just the way they were celebrating with each other and the way like the camaraderie. And I think they've brought more of a team spirit this year than they had through last year. Kind of lots of random players brought in, but this year it seems a little bit more settled. Players maybe know their roles a little bit more. Like the likes of Atanga, who didn't get a look in last year, now started a couple of games, done really well. Batsner as well was kind of in and out the side. He's now done pretty well over the last 2 games. I was really impressed, and I did not see them winning this one. I thought last week was just kind of a little bit of a shock win, and we'd kind of see a little bit more of what we presumed was going to come from Oostende. I thought Charleroi would have too much for them, but I guess it's that issue of the striker again, and you can just see that in the fact that they took 16 shots, only managed to score one of them, and that was through Ken and Kuba.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth pointing out here again that that's Oostende's first back-to-back win since, I think, last August, early September, pretty much a year. Which is extraordinary when you think about it. It shows you kind of what a kind of malaise had sort of set in there. So that in itself is quite significant. This was pretty decent stuff from the Coos boys. I thought they were quite efficient. They actually, for XG fans, and this is always interesting actually, they actually outscored their XG, with their 3 goals in this game. So they were highly efficient. So they found a degree of clinicalness which has been missing for a long time. And I think you're right, Ben. I think there is definitely an improved team spirit there, and I think they're probably using a lot of the criticism they've had off for a lot of people, including their own fans who've been very critical of the club's activity in recent weeks as well, albeit they have brought in a number of players since the Coos boys came out with that very critical statement a couple of weeks ago. There has been an improvement, and they seem to be feeling better about themselves, which is kind of interesting because we've also been kind of quite critical of how we feel their season might go here at the BFP as well. So they're using that and all the other criticism, I would imagine, to kind of fuel them at the moment. It's interesting to see that.
Yes, definitely. I think, and indeed, they were looking decent. Yeah, you can also see that in their efficiency, not only in scoring, but also just like 2/3. So 6 out of the 9 shots were on target. So definitely there has been some shooting practice there, I guess. At the other hand, Hubert at 0-0 kept them, kept the score at 0-0 with a few good saves. 2 good saves, and one of them was quite fearless. I guess he held it out with his face, and it went out for a corner because of doing so. When he was diving into the feet of the Charleroi player attacking him. Another player that stood out from the attacking trio, from the attacking players, was actually Ambrose, who I thought really had a really good game despite not scoring, and I don't think even not without having any real output, so to say. No assist either, but yeah, he was making it really difficult for the Charleroi defense. He also had both most duels won and most duels lost in this game. So an interesting fact. So they really were looking for him, and okay, obviously it didn't always work out, but I guess he did make it easier for the Oostende players to move on up onto the pitch. Atanga giving something back to Betzner after the Betzner's 2 assists last week. Now he returned the favor, but only with 1. 2 great team goals, I thought, as well, both for the 1-0 for 0-1 from Daze, and also in Kuba's equalizer as well, where Daze's finish then also was but even better than and a nice ending of that attack. While Oostende are overperforming in this a very short time period, of course, so still very early days. I feel like Charleroi are a bit underperforming what we expect from them. Let's at least from that, I think that we can safely say that. Yeah, good win for us, and some things to work on still for Charleroi.
Yeah, definitely finishing, and that is for sure. 2 sides that probably could have done with some finishing were Kortrijk and St. Luden. We always know St. Luden are going to be a difficult team to break down. But in this one, they had 63% of possession away from home, 18 shots, but only 2 on target. And the man that just seemed desperate to score but never could was Frank Boyer. He just, of all the players, you just don't think it's going to be him, do you? But he had one chance, the ball came across and he tried to poke it in with his foot. That one was reasonably well saved from Illich. Another one, like, I don't know if you saw this one, guys, but this is the least, like, if I saw Frank Boyer in this position, this is the least, like, expected thing for him to do. So much so that I think it was Hayashi in the box when Boyer gets it on the left-hand side. I think he's sizing up, I think it was Watanabe, and Hayashi's just got his hands in the air and he's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to beat someone one-on-one? Like, you're Frank Boyer. You're a central defensive midfielder. What are you, like, why are you doing this? Boyer then I think he does like 2 step-overs, cuts inside and smashes it against the post. And the only one that reacts is Bruno, like, tries to get across and get it. And it's just like, what just happened? Like, Hayashi doesn't move. He stays at exactly the same spot. He's just like dumbfounded that this has happened. And that's pretty much all that really happened in this game. It was basically the only time any side looked like scoring was when they were shooting as the camera faces it to the right-hand side. That's all the chances were. Like, St. Trude and Belly had any chance in the first half. All theirs came in the second half shooting that way. Kortrijk vice versa. Finished 0-0. Not really surprising given the performance Kortrijk put in against Selang last week. We spoke about how poor that was. This is another not great performance, albeit against a much better side than Selang and St. Trude, like one of the better defensive teams out there. Who also had Robert Bauer back on the bench, was interesting. Obviously, there's a bit of news around him wanting to get a move to the Middle East, but his valuation wasn't met by the club that was going to buy him, so he was kind of absent from training and missed some time. But they're like, he's going to come back in and he's going to be part of the team, and he's on the bench for now. Who knows if that's going to stay as it is. Also, Selemani started. We spoke about that last week. He's now starting games. They mixed it up. Kortrijk, Belgian went for the kind of 3-4-3, being Radovanovic back in to kind of show up the defence next to Desi and Watanabe. So he's tried something, moved stuff around, but it's kind of the same old result. I don't know if you guys have anything to mention on this. Joris, you said you had a sentence for this one, which I think is probably more. I've somehow got this out of it. I don't know if Scott's got anything, but Joris, over to you for this sentence that we've been waiting for since you mentioned it at the beginning.
There are even more sentences, I have to say, even discarding this announcement sentence that I'm doing here. This was the first 0-0 of the season, so that was actually the sentence already. So, long may it continue that it takes a few once every 3 weeks. I think we can manage. That's a good average, I guess. Also, Sint-Truiden are one of the 2 teams to not have won yet, while at the same time still maintaining that long-standing streak of not losing as well. But despite not losing, you can find them at the bottom of the classification now. Well, not the complete bottom, but in a danger zone. Very early days, and just one win will shake things up at this stage of the season, of course. But it shows the value of both a win and a draw, maybe a bit more. Sheds a bit more light on that. Kortrijk, on the other hand, despite everything we're saying, they got 2 clean sheets in a row now as well. On the other hand, they also only got 1 goal, so that's a weird, strange record, but they're ahead of Sint-Truiden at the moment, despite their record. And the last thing I had was also what you already touched on. Lots of shots off target from both sides, mostly from Sint-Truiden. 11 shots off target. That's quite unbelievable.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I mean, St. Truiden probably should have edged this, but couldn't quite get it over the line. And obviously, Big Frank had either had a rather large coffee or Oris Red Bull before going out at the weekend in this game, because he looked like he fancied it all himself, as Ben was saying. Point worth highlighting on Kortrijk, we've already mentioned as well. They're really going to have to find a solution to someone putting it in the net, because there's a fair amount of creativity in that side, and they are going to create chances. But I think one of the worrying thing, looking at some of the numbers at the moment, is they've had something in the region of, and we're only, 3 games in, so we can't read too much into this, and we must stress that. But based on the numbers so far, they've had something in the region of 30 shots across the 3 games. And of those, I think about 9 have been on target. So we know they're struggling to score goals, but certainly based on the numbers are backing up the fact that, the creativity that is in the side is not coming close to being converted. So they really need to find a solution to that. And if they don't, I think they're going to continue to struggle to win games at the moment. And there's a bit of pressure already on Belgian, so it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. They are looking... I understand that they are definitely looking for another striker before the window closes, and there has been a little bit of chat today, a little bit of noise, that they are quite interested in possibly one of their favourites in recent years who did very well while he was there in the past, Felipe Avenatti, of course, who at Beerschot and at Union and still at Standard, although he has a year left in his contract there. There is chat today that they'd be keen to try and bring him back in, but they have to find a solution to that. Otherwise, I think things are going to get worse for them.
Despite what you're saying there, Scott, I personally do feel they don't have enough creativity in their squad, especially if Shaluk is not playing and if they Salamani. I will probably not be hanging around a lot either. Yeah,
I think the Chaluk one is interesting, Joris, because see on Chaluk, I mean, he's a player we've championed a number of times here at the BFB, and he just can't get in the squad at the moment. So I don't know if there's an issue there, there's a personality clash or something's actually happened, but it's amazing that he just seems to be completely out of the picture at the moment, especially when things aren't really working for them. So you would have expected of seeing Belhacine kind of give him a shot. So that in itself is a bit of a mystery as well. So a number of quite interesting things going on at Kortrijk at the moment that just don't quite feel right.
I was gonna say, it's like they are so reliant on Habib Gay scoring, and I think to be fair to him, he was obviously out a lot last year with an injury. Got 5 goals and that was it. Season before that, 5 goals. So then but if you're looking at Avenatti, like I don't know, man, like is that the answer? Like I was just looking at
the numbers.
Just like he hasn't scored more than 2 goals since 2018-19. So he's not coming and he scored 1 goal last year, albeit he was barely used at Union because, I mean, Undav Van Zyl, like what else are you going to do? Then they were happy for him to move on because they bought in Mian in January. So he went to Beerschot. I think that's where he got his 1 goal, but started a lot of games for them. They were quite poor. I just don't think he's the answer, but I don't know. I want Pat Habigay to come good. Obviously, I have a slight vested interest in that with his Kortrijk shirt that I waited a long time to get because of his injury. So I've waited a while for that so he can deliver some of the goods. But yeah, I obviously will ban the Shaluk drum. We've been banning the Shaluk drum. I did see he came out where he did make a comment about like he wants to prove to the fans that he is good enough and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird. But maybe if Belhacine goes and someone else comes in, he gets to start. You know how these things kind of work. But it'd be interesting to see how they line up next week, just because he needs to find a way of getting this team firing. So I think a lot of shooting in practice this week. Let's move on to a side that finally got off the mark. They've been talking about not panicking, and they hosted, that's Mechelen, sorry, didn't even mention them, Malinois. They hosted Union Saint-Gilloise at home on the Saturday night. Union coming off a fantastic result in the week, which we are absolutely going to talk about. So if you thought we've got this far without mentioning it, we are going to talk about the European fixtures because that was an incredible night in Leuven for them. Not so great in this one. Mechelen were by far the better team. I thought they were fantastic in this game. I thought down the right-hand side they were causing all sorts of problems. And it was the bald man, Jeffrey Herrymans. I thought I was just kind of thinking about, he is called Herrymans, but he has barely any hair. But he was absolutely fantastic in this game. Rob Scoofs. There was this kind of theme going through this week where lots of bald blokes started scoring, and it kind of continued into Sunday. I don't know if there's any accuracy in that, and I'm hoping Joris has like crunched some numbers and stats on this one to completely prove this kind of bald thing I had going on this week complete nonsense. But Rob Scoofs does have hair, and he opened the scoring. Massive deflection went over Anthony Morris. I was trying to work out if I felt Morris could have done better, but it's kind of the way it loops in. It is literally just under the crossbar. It's one of those ones where Scoofs only really scores screamers, but this one wasn't really a screamer. But it was kind of the culmination of a lot of pressure from Mechelen. They had a lot of chances. Union obviously rung the changes, which we kind of expected for them to do. Ziani got a start, which was great to see. Tuma did start, but Puertas came in for Leinen. Who else came in? Victor Boone came in for Ross Sykes. I thought we'd see some Arnaudoni starting for Lapoussin, but Lapoussin started. However, Mechelen were fantastic in this one. Second half, they get a free kick on the right-hand side. Jeffrey Hermans with a fantastic ball in. poor old Armani he's just stuck and he has to head it and he just heads it straight into his own goal. If he doesn't head it, I think someone should have headed it in because it was such a good ball across. And then literally 7-8 minutes later, Julian Goy wraps it up. Herlimans, I think it was again, ball into Ngoy, literally gets it out of his feet, smashes it into the bottom corner. He's now off the mark for Mechelen, which is massive. I felt like he was kind of snatching at chances. You could see some pressure riding on him a little bit because they are relying on him as the striker now to score the goals, and he got off the mark there. For Union, they did push, they did try and score, but you can tell like a lot had been taken out of them during the week. As soon as that third one went in, Gerrard's just kind of rang the changes, which I thought was sensible. Bought off Teddy Tuma, which was very sensible because he was ridiculously good in the week. Newcoop came off, Armani came off, Van Zier came off. I think it was just that was a sensible thing to do. But Scott, how happy with you with Mechelen's performance and just seeing them get off the mark in the way they did?
There was a definite air of tension around this game in sort of the opening half hour or so. You could kind of feel that, you know, after those first couple of defeats, that, you know, there wasn't a massive amount of confidence going into this game, especially against the Union side, who offensively are usually very impressive. So there was definitely a sense of tension, I thought, and there was a massive sense of relief when the opening goal went in as well, and delight, which seemed to kind of just lighten Mechelen up and take some of the pressure off, because, you know, things were still a little bit disjointed, I thought, up to that point. And really that's when the game turned. Fantastic goal, Julian Ngoy, brilliant technique, really instinctive clinical finish, and I think it's going to be important now that he's got off the mark. Really impressed with the way kind of Karel Geererts handled this, as you were saying, Ben. You know, made some changes for the start of the game, which were slightly unexpected, to be honest. I didn't expect him to make as many as 3 for the start of the game, and then obviously once the game's gone fairly early in the second half, you know, brings off 3 big hitters, obviously with Tuesday night's game in mind. The second leg against Rangers. I think, you know, Union have been criticised slightly in some quarters perhaps for having one eye in that game. I don't think that's really true. I think they're using their squad as we said they would have to do because of Europe, and they're using it kind of quite wisely. And in truth, they didn't play badly. This game just kind of really went against them. It just kind of one of those days. Particularly delighted on a personal note that Mechelen got the win, only because the last time they lost 3 in the bounce was in 54-55, and in that season they were relegated. So, you know, hopefully that was the pre-match team chat before the game, that stat, because that sent shivers down my spine. It did.
It was also the last time Union won in Mechelen though, in that season. So that stat did manage to stay in. Also the heaviest loss for Union, well, one since they're back into the top flight, and well, secondly already in 3 years even, I think the streak extends. But yeah, really a bit of an off day for them. Also punished a bit unlucky with the first goal, and Mechelen scoring on a set piece. In that one was then an own goal as well, so I guess also a bit unlucky there, although I think that ball would probably have been headed in anyway. Finally a win for Mechelen, clean sheet as well. Union indeed definitely with half an eye on the European fixture for, well, at the time of recording, tomorrow.
Yeah, congrats to Mechelen getting off the mark. It was a great atmosphere down there as well, watching it on the TV. Let's go to the Sunday lunchtime kickoff, which saw Cercle Bruges travelling to Standard Liège. This one decided by 2 penalties, both scored by the same man, both in the same quarter, Selim Amala. First one came after a handball by Kevin Denke. This one I'm less kind of have an issue with. I don't know if I have an issue with either of them, but I can understand why people are calling them soft. Denke kind of turns his back, hands in an slightly unnatural position, ball strikes it, it's always going to be given as a penalty. VR's not going to overrule that one. It's kind of the way handballs are officiated at the moment. Upset Selim Amala, yeah, he put this one into the bottom left-hand corner as you look at the goal, and then kind of gave Majewski a little stare down. I don't know, I'm maybe being harsh, but I felt like the goalkeeper could have maybe done a little bit better. Like, it was actually quite close to him, and he just kind of like collapses to his right rather than full on diving to his right. Obviously, who am I to say anything? I'd have definitely let it in and probably completely missed it, but I'm not a professional goalkeeper. But I don't know what you guys think about that one. The second one was, I think it was Alan Donham breaks it into the box. Darlan does really well actually to kind of like shepherd him towards the byline, and then Leandro Lopez just kind of crashes into the back of him, which he obviously goes down. Referee doesn't give it initially, just looks like a little bit of a tangle. However, VAR intervenes and it's always going to be a penalty. Up steps Amala again, same result. And that's how it finished, 2-0 to Standard Liège. Ronny Deila gets a win at home. He was absolutely delighted with that. They could have had a couple more. Boda also made a really good save in the first half from Kevin Denke, who came in for Ueda. So Valhammer kind of changing things a little bit around there. However, great to see Ronny Deila giving it large to the fans after the game. Scott, I know you thought these penalties were quite contentious, so quite keen to hear kind of your take on this one and the kind of performance from Standard and Cercle as a whole.
Well, I thought the penalties were both a bit cheap in kind of different ways. I mean, the first one is quite harsh, but I think is a penalty. It's interesting, you know, I've been talking, I did a guest appearance on Heart and Hand, the Big Rangers podcast, previewing both the first and the second leg, and we chatted at length about the penalty given against Rangers the other night and how harsh that was. And this was a bit similar, really. It was just one of those where, you know, not a lot could have been done to kind of avoid the situation. But, you know, letter of the law these days is that it doesn't have to be intentional anymore. So, and I think the second one was just really cheap. You know, you give somebody an excuse to go down when they're effectively going away from goal as well, and it just gives the referee an easy decision to make, really. So both are difficult ones to take for Cercle, because, you know, Dominic Thalhammer was talking afterwards about how he felt generally Cercle played kind of quite well. I'm not quite as convinced as he is that they played as well this weekend as they can do, and certainly as they did the week before. I think offensively and physically they were just a little bit off the levels that we know that they can set. So although it did come down to the two penalties, you know, most games obviously come down to fine margins somewhere. I think his frustration was down to the fact that, you know, it was just, you know, avoidable things that stopped them kind of getting a point. Slesson, of course, is not a happy hunting ground for Cercle. They haven't won there for, you know, a long time now. That obviously hasn't changed with this result. Standard will just be kind of delighted to get the first home win under their belt. I think it's important for them because Ronny Deila's emphasised, hasn't he, how much he wants to make Slesson some kind of fortress again, you know, and a place that the fans enjoy coming out to see the team play, as any side should at home. And I think that's going to be important for them, because obviously the rebuild is going to be has to be a gradual process. But the good news for Standard fans is Fergal Harkin has his feet under his desk. He is now in Liège. He's now working away day to day with his files, has his eye on a number of players, I think, at the moment. So there's likely to be some movement now. And I know that Ronnie's certainly delighted about that, because he's been talking this week about how he's going to really enjoy working with him. They obviously know each other from their City Football Group connections as well in various ways in that network. So there's going to be some movement there too.
Definitely, yes. And interesting to see what was actually that Sandar started with the same 11 as last week, when, well, Deila basically showed that he needed needs some improvements and then some more players. I'm still tinkering with, is this indeed another sign of him the trying to get that even more clear? 60% of Standard goals at the moment are actually penalties now, and I do agree with the first penalty. I think it's quite similar to the one Genk actually got against Standard last week, so I guess that evens out a bit. And yes, I do think these kind of situations at the moment at least are penalties. Second one indeed a bit lighter, and Cercle just really not much in this game, to be fair, except the one really big chance I think he missed in the first half.
Yeah, no, you're right. And kind of penalties are their way to goal at the moment for Standard. Selim Amala was their top scorer with 3, all from the spot. He is going to be crucial for them this season. Like, he is a good quality player, so, and they don't have many of those. So maybe he's the 1% or 2%, whatever Ronny Deila was talking about, is just Selim Amala. Who knows? Let's go to Ghent against newly promoted Westerlo. unfortunately, another ACL injury during the week, this time to Daci of Westerlo, means he's going to be out for a while. And I don't know if Deloc was listening to our preseason podcast, so I was like, we were talking through the team, and I was like, oh yeah, remember Igor Vetekele, Charlton player? I'm pretty sure I said probably won't see much of him this year, barely featured last year. So he obviously starts this game and scores the opening goal, makes he's their top scorer now with 2 this season. So what do I know about Igor Vetekele? But nice to see him back on the pitch. Yeah, 5th minute, he takes advantage of some sloppy defending from Ghent to put Westerlo 1-0 up. And Ghent were probably getting a little bit concerned as the first half drew to an end. However, Suleiman Mala, the Gambian international, got the equaliser with a thunderous shot in the 37th minute. And then Westerlo gave away a penalty in the dying minutes of the first half. Hugo Kuipers steps up to make it 2-1. And that's how this one finished. It was nice to see Malik Fofana getting a start. We spoke about him last week. He got the start over Lamaik in this game. For Westerlo, it's another loss in a row. However, he obviously won their first game, so at least they've got 3 points on the board. Been a slightly difficult start, I guess, the 2 last games. Leuven obviously being in good form that they are, and then against side that are looking to win the league. I do wonder, though, as we go forward, whether they are going to miss Tisu Dali more. We've obviously mentioned how big a loss that is. They are looking at other players. I think, was it Benito Raman's been mentioned? They even tried to give Bezos another contract after releasing him. Surprisingly, he turned that down. Who'd have thought he'd have turned down that offer? Can't imagine why after they let him go in the first place. He obviously didn't want to re-sign, but then they're like, oh, do you want to come back? He was obviously like, no. He's actually gone to Cyprus anyway. So, yeah, a good win for Ghent then after coming from behind. Good for Hugo Kuipers, obviously, to get on the score sheet. He is going to be the main man for them now this season without Tisu Dali. Yeah, guys, anything to add on this one? Not massively surprised with the result, but was quite surprised that Westerlo were able to take the lead quite early on.
Yeah, and the 3 last touches before Vertokele's goal were actually hints. So a lot of things went, wrong, or they were a bit unfortunate. There are some unfortunate touches to set Vertokele up for a decent finish, though. Well, it was not as bad as one of Emmen's. I think it was a 2-0 from, to go a bit sidetracking here, but Emmen's second goal that they conceded against PSV this weekend. If you didn't watch that one, I know it's not our scope, but go ahead. It's just funny. Mari was really close to being offside at the 1-1. I don't know. I'll assume that was a correct decision after the VAR, but we all know that this system is not working that perfect either. I just wanted to throw it in here without any judgment or anything. I assume it was a correct decision. And you already mentioned the Fofana start as well. Didn't really have a big impact on the game, but it's nice for him to get a start, of course, and can't really expect him to shine immediately. But nice that he got these minutes. But yeah, I don't have much on Westerlo, but on Ghent I still have one more thing, which is another potential cause for worry, because I don't think we know the impact of all of them and how long players will be out. But they got a few extra injuries in midfield with all 3 of Kums, Hulseger, and this is then not in central midfield, but Samaze getting off injured during the game, while already having lost Owuzu last week in training as well. So more injury worries for Ghent at the moment as well. And I don't think we can already give a better update on the status of these injuries. But I'm sure they will be a little bit scared as long as these results are not in.
Yeah, I think in truth there wasn't a lot between the two in this game, really. I think Westerlo on the whole should be quite encouraged by that, because they competed quite well, I thought. And the Gamelco is quite a difficult place to go best of times. So to lose by quite a narrow margin, really, I think is an encouraging sign for their away form against some of the bigger sides, if you like. The Rock will be encouraged by that. From Ghent's perspective, I think it was particularly nice to see young players like Fofana getting a decent amount of game time, unexpected start for him generally. Also, Salah playing the majority of the match as well was kind of quite nice, and it's always a great thing to see talented young players getting a good amount of exposure, no doubt about it. I think Sinan Bolak quite disappointed not to not to get a shutout. I think he was hoping to stick one to his ex-boss, Big Hein, but unfortunately he did concede. And I was watching him, and he did look kind of quite motivated. He looked quite up for this game, for all sorts of reasons, because obviously those two had a bit of a falling out over something that's not worth going back over now, but it certainly hasn't been forgotten, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's always funny when there's a bit of like niggle between a player and a manager, rather than between two players or two managers. It always just seems quite bizarre. But yeah, unfortunately for him, no clean sheet. No clean sheet for any goalkeeper in Brussels this weekend as Anderlecht faced Salang. This one was pretty much over within half an hour. Francis Amuzu finishing off a cross in the 4th minute to put Anderlecht ahead. Amuzu, again, he was just absolutely terrorising Silla and Conchechao on the wing. Just, they could not handle him at all. Really nice finish from him in the 16th minute to make it 2-0. And then Fabio Silva got another one. Quite a nice finish again from him in the 30th minute. So 3-0 at half-time. To be fair to Salan, they did push, they tried. They only managed 40% possession, did get 5 shots away. One of those was on target in the second half from Sambu Sissoko, which is actually a really nice finish from him. Quite well worked from them as well to find him on the right-hand side to finish it off. However, that was all they could really muster in this game. Guys, yeah, comfortable for Anderlecht. They had a pretty comfortable win in the week. Well, actually, it looked comfortable against Pied. I thought Pied actually caused them more issues than they probably would have expected to. But they came away, obviously, with the win. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, what that means for their second leg. But this one kind of went how we expected it to. Kind of not much to write home about, I guess.
Yeah, there's not a great deal to say about this game, really. Anderlecht on cruise control, really very good in the first half, and kind of killed the game off completely by half-time, as you were saying, Ben, and definitely took their foot off it a bit in the second half. Sarang, a little bit improved in the second half, but same old issues persist, struggling to create and certainly struggling to finish anything. And as we keep saying week on week, worth reiterating again, it's definitely going to be a long, hard road for them this season. Interestingly, Mazu said afterwards that he felt that was Anderlecht's best performance since he's come in, which I thought was kind of quite interesting. And it was nice to see Kana back in place of Treble, who was feeling unwell, apparently.
What else to say? Well, 6 youth players in the Anderlecht starting 11. I guess that's more to mention, at least. But Amuzo is also one of them, and he's rumored to be on the out to Nice. Wondering if his price rose a bit since he now got 2 goals as well to open his season account. And well, for the rest, yeah, Anderlecht were good in the first half. Actually quite bad in the second half, but Serijn was not good enough to really do much about it anymore, and the game was already killed by then. At least also quite a comical way to give a goal away from Anderlecht. Serijn got a goal. That's actually probably the main news. They're not alone in the standings anymore as well. They're not the only team that only has scored 1 goal this season yet, but they are still the only team with 0 points.
Yeah, it was also good to see Sergio Gomez back on the bench for Anderlecht as well, and getting back on the pitch for a little bit. So hopefully they can get him back up to speed and keep hold of him rather than let him go to City and then wherever that ends up going from there, because I don't think that'll be his final destination. But anyway, let's move on to the big game of the weekend, which was an absolute cracker. Really enjoyed this one. Antwerp against Leuven in Antwerp. Battle of the top 2. Neither side had conceded. However, that changed on the 27th minute after Antwerp had quite a few chances. Leuven were just trying to hit them on a break, particularly through Moussa Altamari, who in the first half was absolutely fantastic. He was the driving force behind everything good that Leuven were doing. And he was obviously involved in the goal. They kind of won it on the right-hand side at right-back kind of position. Him and Casper De Noor play like a little 1-2. Casper De Noor breaking forward. And Casper De Noor's been transformed into a central midfielder. Somehow, Mark Beers was saying he used to train as a number 10. So he said he's unleashing that in him. He would have thought he'd have passed it over to Altamari, who's in loads of space on the right-hand side. Instead, he finds Nsingi in the central area, takes a couple of touches, and then fires it into the bottom corner. I was just about to message you guys before this went in saying Leuven really needs someone up front who can finish some chances, because they're They just don't look like there's anyone in this side who's going to finish anything. And then he pulls out this fantastic finish. Great to see for him, full on celebration as well. Was really happy for him. However, Antwerp did respond, and they responded brilliantly in the 38th minute. If you've seen, I think it's their second goal against Lillestrøm in the midweek. This is almost an identical goal where Miyoshi plays it across, Balikwisha dummies over it, and then Nainggolan finishes it off. Literally exactly the same kind of pattern of players happened again. Nainggolan getting another goal this week to add to his couple in the week against Lillestrøm. And then Leuven just fell asleep from a throw-in. Richie de Laat launches it into the box. Big Mikkel Fry holds it up, swivels, bang, past Kojakaru in goal. Should have probably done a little bit better with this one. First one, it was a bit of a struggle, but I felt like the keeper should have done better with the second one. So at halftime, it was 2-1 to Antwerp. It's been kind of like an up and down game the whole time. You had Altamari going at it, but in the second half, it was Mikkel-Ange Balikwisha. We'll get to him. He was absolutely sensational in the second half. However, Leuven did get back into it with another equaliser. Rafa Holzhauser with the set piece. Louis Patlis banging another goal in. What a start to the season he's had offensively with a couple of assists and now a goal to add to it. Such an inviting cross from Holzhauser, whose set-piece delivery before this had been pretty dreadful, but he finally got one right. And he was absolutely loving the boos that he was receiving as an ex-Beerschot player. There's a couple of times he was just showboating on the ball. He was drifting everywhere as well. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was kind of all over the pitch. And it looks like Beers has said, okay, you can kind of play that similar role to what you played at Beerschot in the first kind of couple of seasons under them, where you just kind of drift around and Malinov and Denor will kind of do all the work. Although Malinov's hair is shocking. I didn't recognize him. I was like, what is that? Awful haircut from him. I don't know what's happened there. I don't know if people have seen it, but yeah, it's not great. And it's not, I didn't recognize him. I was like, Malinov's definitely number 4. I know he's the number 4 for Leuven, but I do not think that's him. It was. Just wanted to hide himself. He actually had a pretty decent game as well. Like, he was covering a lot. He had a lot of defending to do against the likes of Yusuf Gherkins and Nainggolan. So 2-2, but then, Balikwisha just turned it on. He was causing Patrice all sorts of issues. I felt almost quite bad for Patrice by the end of the kind of the game, and he probably just wanted to get off the pitch because Balikwisha just absolutely tormented him. The third goal, so I'm losing count here, was really, really nicely played. Ball comes into Mikkel Fry, and Flentings, I don't know what you've got. If Fry has the ball, it's actually better just to let him turn rather than put that pressure on the back of him, because he's so good at just slipping the ball to either side. He slips it into a gap in between Quadrago and Flentings, where Denor's not really tracking the run of Gherkins. And they see this was flagged as offside, but it was fantastic. He played Gherkins as miles onside because poor Patrice is playing him onside at the other side of the pitch. He squares it. Balikwisha puts it in, kind of identical to one he missed a few weeks ago, actually. Kojakaru does get there this time, but I don't really want to put too much blame on him because he did quite well to even get there in the first place, but he didn't have strong enough wrist to keep this one out. Then Balikwisha, 82nd minute. This is the goal of the game for sure. Gets it on the left-hand side. Everyone's screaming for the ball. Janssen wants his first goal. Everyone wants the ball, but he just cuts inside and leathers it into the top corner, and that's how it finished. Janssen did have one chance, I think, to score. I don't know if he's ever going to score for Antwerp, if I'm honest, in the league. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. The way Frey's playing as well, I can't believe there's ever any talk that they were going to be he was going to be the one on the bench and Janssen was going to be starting. Not going to happen. But this was the Balikwisha show in the second half. He was absolutely sensational, and if he plays like this, they won't miss Benson as much as they probably might have feared they would. Valencia came on and looked quite good. Victor Fischer's back. He came on for a little bit. So it's starting to look really good for Antwerp to start the season. But I think, Scott, you mentioned it. Mark van Bommel starts well, and it's not about starting well. It's about how you finish. But really good performance from them. Really, really entertaining game. 4-2 it finished at Antwerp, and what a way to round off the weekend that was.
Save the best for last day, guys. I mean, it was a great game, really good. It was the first game we've seen this season, I think, where both sides who've had a good start going at each other, having a right good go, and it was really nice to see Leuven do that. Actually, I mean, they haven't had, this is their best start to a season ever. I think last time they amassed 6 points was they had to get to match day 5. So what we were talking about last week about them starting the season strongly and well because of the general slowness and disappointment of last year really continuing. Didn't look like they were in awe of Antwerp at all. And I think Mark Bryce has made quite a lot this week as well about what a difficult set of fixtures they've got coming up as well. They really have a hard next 4 or 5 weeks before the international break as well. So I think they're very keen to try and get some points out of those games. Understandably so, particularly when they're playing well at the moment, because their strong start is I think very important to them, especially with a mid-season break coming up that we wouldn't normally have with the World Cup as well. So I think there's the importance that's been placed by Mark Bryce and his staff at Leuven on having a really good start. I think is working, which is great to see, but is going to be so important to how their season pans out. Antwerp actually slow and steady as well, as I was saying last week. I think they still have quite a lot of work that they would like to do, but are being very patient about it, which is obviously the only way to kind of look at that. And they will be delighted with their start. Not much has gone wrong for them really at the moment. And from a recruitment point of view, I mean, some of the players who've left are ones that they would like to have got out the door anyway. Interestingly, Ben was mentioning Manuel Benson, who has actually been doing very well for them, but was certainly somebody that Overmars wasn't, how can I put it, not frankly that bothered by. Obviously he prefers, Victor Fisher and perhaps has his eye on somebody else. There were a couple of names, a couple of players who we won't name here because, they're not necessarily going to come to fruition, but Mark Overmars was quite interested in bringing a couple of players from Ajax with him. But as I understand it, those moves were dependent on playing time and assurances that they were or weren't going to get back in Amsterdam, which they seem to have got. So it doesn't look like they're going to happen, but things have started very well there. And that's all you need for the confidence to start building. And I'm glad you mentioned Janssen, Ben, because I was thinking while I was watching this game, yeah, Frey has to be the starter striker, when possible. Yeah, the first person, who can tell us how many goals Vincent Janssen's going to score wins a BFP mug, because I'm going to be honest, much like Ben, I don't see too much coming from him at the moment.
Going back to that recruitment point, it's also indeed curious, actually, in a way, that Alderweireld is the only newcomer that has made it to the starting 11, into the regular starting 11 at the moment. Good win for Antwerp. I think you guys again said a lot already, so I'm not sure if I will go on for that long. But I guess Antwerp kind of hurt me last week, because then I was not complaining or making that remark that they didn't score as many goals, but 2 games later they scored 7 goals more, so definitely improved a lot on that. On the other hand, they lost their clean sheet record, conceding in both games, which was to be expected, because I think it was also the most the best opponents they had so far. I remember me telling that Genk got 14 shots on target to score 4 goals. Antwerp only needed 4 shots on target to score 4 goals, so they're definitely getting efficient. And there's another shot on the bar as well, of course, that is not included in this stat. And Balikwisha is also, he really had a weird game for 60, 70 minutes. He was actually not playing well at all, even. But then the last 20 minutes, he put it on fire, and 2 goals, another shot on the bar. He really lit it up. So good start for Antwerp and Van Bommel. Let's see how it continues. Already 5 points clear of Club Brugge, notably, and 3 points clear of everyone else already. So that's not a bad tally after 3 games. Definitely an encouraging start for them. Yeah, Nsingi, glad for him from Leuven signed then for his first goal. Always nice to see another young player and youth product to score first goal. Also interesting to mention that Patrice got another goal. Not another goal, but he was already again involved in the attacking department, in attacking area with scoring this time, not an assist. Also almost scoring twice at the back end of the game in the stoppage time. We also had a rush forward where Boutte narrowly saves a big chance from him. After him running through, he definitely likes his freedom as the center back in the back 5 that has the most room to go forward. He's really enjoying that, and he's having a great time, it seems. But indeed, definitely at least the last part of the game, not so much defensively. Even when Leuven was leading, it's actually a good sign that they're doing this. I think they're trying to play out from the back, but they were losing the ball way too easily, even when they were leading, and when the confidence was there. Their first goal actually comes from from there as well. So it also is a nice attacking way, and then it can really result in good things. But when you give the ball away, really just pass it back and it goes to the wrong color, then you're just cursing yourself, I guess. And it didn't. I'm not sure if they actually conceded from a specific phase like that, but yeah, the because of that you stay under pressure, of course, and that could in the event give you troubles. And that's what happened in these 5 minutes that, or maybe it wasn't even 3 minutes that Antwerp turned the game around originally. And also in the second half, they need to improve their passing game and be a bit more careful when they pass the ball at the back, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Even though, of course, what would football be without the risk? And it can lead to good things, as with the first goal.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you make, Joris, about that passing out from the back, especially against a style like Antwerp with the likes of Mikkel Frey. I've always thought he's quite a good pressing forward and he'll run all day, so it's quite dangerous to do it against him. But I think as well, if you look at them over the last 2 seasons, obviously they had Thomas Henry a couple of years ago, quite a nice target forward who can win the headers, and kind of if you do need to go long, that's fine. Last year, obviously, they had Soli Kaba Rezai when he came on, slightly bigger players, bigger units. And Singi, he was losing all the battles to Alderweireld in this game. Pacho, he was kind of having a bit more of a tussle with, but you just couldn't go long to him. And unfortunately, he also went off injured, so I'm hoping that's not too bad, because otherwise, they're light up front. Kukarevich obviously came on for him. He's a bit more of a unit you could go long to, but he's quite raw as a striker at the moment in this league. We didn't really see much of him last year. Don't know if he's ready to lead the line. If Insingi is injured, they need to go get a striker. I mean, they need a striker anyway, I think, just for depth. But if he is injured, they definitely need to go get someone in, because there's just no one otherwise apart from Kuchelevich. And if he doesn't come off, then you're kind of stuffed. I mean, maybe Antwerp can loan them one. I don't know. Maybe companies on the phone being like, actually, instead of Benson, can we have Balakwisha? Do you mind if we just change the deal around a little bit? But I'm sure company will be on the phone to every single Belgian club, because that's the only players he's signing off from Belgium at the moment, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, that's the league stuff done. Let's move back to a bit of European football that we saw during the week, and I think this feels like the first time ever, guys, where I can say everyone did well in Europe. All the Belgian teams played well. It always feels like one did well and 3 did really badly, and we're just we just European kind of it's dead. We just one team's already basically out. But no, everyone did well. Everyone is in charge of their ties. Let's start with Union against Rangers at Leuven. What a game this was. I thought Rangers started the better side. They put a lot of pressure on Union on, and I was pretty worried after the first 10 minutes. I was like, this could be a long night. This is not the Union we're used to. But then they just started to click into gear. Lapu Sam was excellent. Teddy Tuma, what a performance from him. He gets the opening goal with a really nice finish into the bottom corner. And I thought after that, Union were great. They were fantastic. Scott, I know you've spoken to, like you said earlier, you spoke to Heart and Hand about this game, and saw lots of Rangers fans afterwards saying we just weren't good enough and Union were the better team. There was then that controversial, I guess you could say controversial penalty. I thought it was really harsh, but like we said, those are the rules when it comes to handball these days. Dante Vanzia stepped up from the spot, made it 2-0. He had a couple of other chances where he could have made it 3, and you're just praying that doesn't come back to bite them. I don't know, guys, I really enjoyed watching this one. It was a shame it wasn't at the usual stadium for Union, but they filled out the stands in Leuven, gave it a great atmosphere. And I don't know about you guys, but if I was watching another team play a Champions League qualifier in my stadium, I'd be quite kind of envious and jealous. And I'm sure lots of Leuven fans watching were like, I wish that was us, because we're not really that close to getting European football in our own stadium. It takes another team to do it. But it's going to be tough, isn't it, Scott, going into Ibrox for the second leg? I mean, it's a tough place to go at the best of times, but the Rangers fans will be really pushing their side on, and Union will be really up against it.
Yeah, I think how Union kind of handle that atmosphere is really going to decide the tie. Obviously, the next goal, if there is one, is going to be crucial as well. There's no doubt about it. You mentioned the opening 10 minutes in the first leg. Particularly interesting, actually, because I think, it's only now you can look back at the game and with some perspective and realise I think that was a very interesting, deliberate choice of Union's actually to allow Rangers to have the ball for the first 20-25 minutes just to kind of feel out their shape actually, with Lapizan and Newcoop on the other side tucking in to almost create an effective back five for that opening 20 minutes, which is interesting. But I think once that period had passed, their confidence kind of grew and they started to play their own game and were able to exert themselves. And I think from an Union point of view, obviously amongst all of the delight of winning the game as well as they did, there'll be that slight disappointment that they didn't win it by an even greater margin as well in some respects. And this was something I discussed with the Rangers podcaster. There was a feeling on their part that Union were lucky not to be completely out of sight in this game actually. Such was the poor performance ultimately of Rangers. But the second leg will be a very, very different story, I think. Rangers will set up differently. I think there are players in their squad that are going to come back in who they definitely missed, that are going to be more creative, more aggressive and more potent for them. So Union are going to have to be much more switched on and be prepared to dig in a little. But we know this is a really positive, fearless side with a fantastic team spirit. So, they've it's in their hands, as you say, Ben.
Yep, definitely. Let's hope that it's not a bad omen that they lost with this big margin for the first time in so long. We'll see. I do indeed have that simmering feeling still that they might have needed that third goal that they probably deserved last week. But let's see. Hopefully it will be enough to get through. And there might be some delegation from the BFP in the stadium, so that's something to look forward to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm like you, Joris. I'm just such a pessimist as well. I'm always just slightly worried about it. But this team's kind of proven everyone wrong so many different times over the last year and a bit. They proved me wrong in the first leg. I didn't think they'd win the first leg, let alone perform as well as they did. So fingers crossed for them. It'd be great to have two teams in the Champions League, or even just to get through to the next round. Would just be a massive achievement. The next qualifying round, obviously. Another side of one foot into the next round, into qualifying for the Conference League, are Antwerp. They travelled away to Lillestrøm in Norway. We said this would be a slightly tricky game. However, they got off to the perfect start. Dini Almeida in the 5th minute opening the scoring. However, they then conceded Magnus Nordin Knudsen for Lillestrøm in the 48th minute. So just at the end of the first half, basically, with a kind of tap in at the back post to make it 1-1. However, Antwerp's big players came to the fore, and it was Raja Nainggolan with 2 goals. The first one, like I said, complete same as his one this weekend, and another one in the 86th minute to just finish this game off. Antwerp go home with a 3-1 win. That should really be enough to see them through. They just need to be professional in the home leg with the home crowd behind them. That should do it. Same kind of competition as well. Anderlecht travelled to Estonia to take on Paide. They were 2-0 up at half-time. Leo Favre in the 10th minute getting them underway, and then Fabio Silva in the 40th. Watched most of the second half of this one, and Paide didn't play that badly. They just lacked that little bit of quality to put Anderlecht under much pressure. So I feel like if Anderlecht need to go into another gear, they should be able to go into another gear. 2-0 at home. They should be able to do that on Thursday. Just a quick one on these ones, guys. Are you at all concerned that it's going to go badly for these two sides at home, or do you think they've got the difficult bit out of the way? They should just be able to see this through.
I think they'll both be all right now. I think they've both already done enough. They just need to slow and steady, get it over the line now.
I'm also positive about both of these legs and ties. Next ties will be something else as well, because we could already look forward, but let's not jinx stuff anyway. But the opponents are probably also already known because they had the exact same results in their games before facing, hopefully, the Belgian sides.
Yeah, so it looks like we were talking about Istanbul Başakşehir and Young Boys Bern as the two potential sides. And yeah, like you say, Joris, they both won their ties. Although Istanbul, had a bit more of a difficult one in Iceland. They were only winning 2-1 for a bit, and then they did see that one out. So we'll presume it's going to be them. If these two get through, they should get through, and fingers crossed they do. Let's quickly look ahead to next week's matches. Friday night, we kick off with Oostende against Ghent. This, I believe, is also one of the Mola free games if you're in the UK, so you can watch that one. Westerlo against Standard on Saturday. Westerlo really want to get back to getting some points at home against Standard. Cercle Bruges against Mechelen and Salang against Charleroi, both at the same time on Saturday. Union play Kortrijk at home on Saturday evening as well. Sunday kicks off with St. Truiden against Anderlecht. That one's on Mola as well. Eupen host Antwerp. Leuven host Club Brugge. So back-to-back difficult games for Leuven. Club Brugge will definitely want to make a statement to get back onto winning ways in that one, which you can also see live on Mola TV as well. And then to finish off on Sunday, it's Zulte Waregem against Genk. Just a quick look over to our Fantasy Football League as well. If you haven't joined it, you can do. It's Fantasy Pro League, and then the code is on our Twitter account, or you can just DM us for that. It's just the Belgian Football Podcast. Congratulations after 3 match days. Maybe we'll do like a little summary after every couple of match days, but after 3 match days, it's Kofi Kook 11, Peter Van Vin at the top with 200 points. I'm just ahead of Union president Alex Muzio. He's in 4th place. Obviously, he's captain Teddy Toomer. Like, what else would you expect from Alex? I looked at his team, I was like, that's just classic. You just knew he was going to do that. Dieter Van Goot is in 2nd place. Well done to you, Dieter. And rounding out the top 5 is Michael de Klerk with Feral Faran FC. No idea if any of these are offensive team names. I think they're all fine. Mine's Roofpool Boom, I think it is. And Alex is Here We Go. So, and then his second place Dieter is the Salon Footballers 87. Anyway, that pretty much rounds it up for this week. Another long one as per usual. Scott and Joris, thank you very much for joining me.
Absolute pleasure. Have a great week, everyone.
Yes, especially Scott. Enjoy your first Belgian team to watch in a while, since we started the podcast.
That's right. Yes, I will. A lot of people already know this, but I will be at Ibrox tomorrow night as of recording, covering the game. So look out for some social media content from me.
Sadly, I will already say until in 2 weeks to the listeners, because next week I will be enjoying a little holiday time. So I'm sorry for that if you really want me in the show, but I'm sure Scott and Ben will manage.
We'll try our very best. We'll try and bring some Genk kind of home truths from you maybe out of your holiday. But enjoy your holiday, man. Scott, enjoy being at Ibrox. So by the time this comes out, you'd have probably already been there and hopefully lapping up a Union win with Alex himself, and you can ask him about his fantasy team while you're at it.
And I realized now that I spoke too quickly as well, because there hopefully will be another episode dropping this week for you, which will be my last appearance before that small holiday.
Exactly. You beat me to it. We will hopefully this week be dropping our pre-season preview for the Challenger Pro League, which is the 2nd tier of Belgian football. No longer 1B, it is the Challenger. We're just putting some kind of finishing touches to all our notes and everything like that. And then we'll be getting that recorded at some point this week and hopefully releasing it just before the first match, which kicks off on Friday. If you like what we've done so far and you continue to listen to us, please do leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. You can also get in touch with us in the usual ways on our Twitter account, through our Gmail account, and kind of all of our personal accounts as well, which you can find on there. But thanks once again for listening, and we'll speak to you very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.